Greetings. Here we are again. Many years ago, 28 in fact, my wife and I, before we were married, took a trip to Sydney for me to meet her parents for the very first time. We had a wonderful week of travelling and meeting loved ones, and on the return journey we were heading up the coast road from Sydney to Brisbane. It was raining, it was cold, it was winter time, and it was fairly miserable, but we were happy. We were together. We heard on the radio that there was snow up in the highlands in the hinterland, and we decided that we might head up there and have a look at this wonderful thing called snow that we very rarely got to see. And so we turned off the road at the next appropriate exit and travelled for a few kilometres. When we came around a bend and came to a bridge, the road was slippery and we began to skid, and I remember heading towards the guardrail and thinking we were going to pull up in time, and then realizing that that was not going to happen, and watching almost slow motion as the fender was peeled back on the guardrail like it was an apple skin. We got out of the car, it was wet, cold, we felt isolated and alone. Little ways off into the distance was a farmhouse, and we hopped the fence and journeyed across the field, hoping that we might be able to get a phone to use to call for help. When we arrived there, we found a wonderful, warm greeting, a family sitting down to lunch, and they told us that very often when it rained there was an accident on that corner, and they had actually set an extra place just for us. I guess they'd seen us coming across the field from the car, and in their warmth and in their love and in their hospitality, the cares of that time began to drift away, and of course we got that whole situation resolved. There's nothing quite like isolation to cause us to feel helpless. Many times we can feel unloved and unvalued when we are alone, and worse, isolated. It's interesting to me that in the 13th chapter of the Gospel of John, Jesus very clearly says that the way that we will know, that the people will know that we are his followers, is by the way we love one another. And it's an interesting thing to me that nowhere in the Bible does it say, seek to be loved. Never once. It always says, I love you, or it says, you love another. And so we have this, in this concept, one of the secrets to spiritual happiness and success. It's the idea of never allowing ourselves to become isolated, not by seeking to be loved, but by actively and effectively loving others, by deliberately seeking ways to build worth into other people and to help them deal with their struggle. And as we love one another, we will discover that it's almost impossible to feel isolated when we are effectively loving others. And so perhaps throughout this week you could remind yourself of how important it is to actively love. And if you ever feel isolated, here's the cure. Go and love someone.